Okay, so the second FA Cup semi-final was completely different to the first. I found this semi-final far more entertaining than the Man City Sheffield United. Now, Brighton Hove Albion were playing Manchester United. It finished 0-0 after 90 minutes. It finished 0-0 after extra time, and it went to penalties. Man United have won 7-6 on penalties. And what is very interesting about this game is Manchester United, after they've lost a game, they win the next one. And Brighton have never won at Wembley. So a lot of things on the line here. The penalty shootout records, Man United have got a dreadful record in recent times. Brighton is mixed. The game itself was entertaining from the first minute to the last minute. Brighton were the better side in the first half from very early on till around 40 minutes. They were the better side. They controlled the possession, the pace of the game, the intensity of the game. De Gea pulled off a couple of good saves. Sanchez and the Brighton goal was called into action as the second half wore on. The momentum swings in this game were incredible. At half time, I think Brighton can be disappointed that they didn't go ahead, should I say. McAllister's free kick very early on, it was a brilliant save by De Gea. As I said, both goalkeepers had a very good game. Second half, Brighton in the first half, the second half were all over Manchester United. They were like besieging the Manchester United goal. De Gea's had to pull off several saves in the beginning of the second half, and then as the second half wore on and the longer the game went on, Manchester United played themselves into the game with the makeshift back four. Luke Shaw is not a centre back. Brighton didn't do enough to unsettle the makeshift Manchester United defence today due to suspension and injury. And then the game started to open up. So Manchester United had a spell in the middle of the second half where they were on top. Sanchez has pulled off a couple of good saves, and then the game just opened up all the way through till 90 minutes, all the way through extra time. It was very open. Neither side wanted to lose the game. Both sides were trying to win the game. And on balance of play, Brighton were the slightly better side, but they were wasteful in front of goal. And I think that's the downside with Brighton today. They didn't take their opportunities. Manchester United rode their luck a little bit, as did Brighton, but Brighton were the better side in 90 minutes and in extra time, just edging it. The penalty shootout, I mean, the first six Brighton penalties were fantastic, and it was down to Solly Marsh to sky it over the bar. He had a very good game, and unfortunately, in the penalty shootout, he's blasted his penalty over the bar. On the Manchester United side of things, all seven penalty takers slotted their penalties very well. Sabitzer's nearly got saved. I think that could have been that is the moment in the penalty shootout. I think puts the pressure on Brighton a little bit. But overall, a fantastic, entertaining game. The crowd numbers were better than yesterday's semi-final, and there's still that debate whether the FA Cup semi-final should be played at neutral grounds rather than at Wembley. That debate will continue to rage on. What can I say about this game though? It was very entertaining. There were mistakes. There was end-to-end action. No one side could completely take control of the game. It was very open. It was played at a good pace, even into extra time. Both sides were still going for it. The interesting thing is how wasteful both sides were a little bit. Manchester United have been very inconsistent this season. Brighton have had some bad luck this season, particularly with refereeing decisions and VAR. VAR didn't impact this game. The referee didn't impact this game. Barely have to mention the referee and his assistants. I think the game was allowed to flow, which was very important. The annoying thing is we didn't see any goals. I think both sides' play warranted, goals. But as I say, sometimes games with goals aren't as entertaining as 0-0 draws. People seem to think that 0-0 draws are dull, boring affairs. This was anything but dull and boring. And Brighton have come a long way from where they were when they first entered the Premier League, when they were always fighting relegation. They are now looking upwards rather than downwards, and they've built a very good side, full of international players. And it's just Brighton's luck at Wembley just keeps deserting them, so they have to wait another year for an FA Cup final. It's been 40 years since they got to their last FA Cup final. Manchester United, second trip to Wembley in the season. They could leave the season with 2 pieces of silverware, which was not anticipated when Erik ten Hag took over at the beginning of the season. They had a poor start to the season, including losing the first match of the season at home to Brighton. So, Manchester United, as I say, inconsistent season. I think Man City will go into that final in the first week of June as favourites. Brighton, I think, yeah, finishing's let them down a little bit today, which is a shame. They created a lot, but it was a thoroughly entertaining game. I mean, I could break it down, phase by phase, and this could be like an hour-long review. We don't want to do that, but I felt that, game was very open. It was allowed to flow. The atmosphere was fantastic, and as I said, less empty seats today. Partly in part because Brighton are a South Coast side. London's not that far away, and Manchester United have a national following. I think probably helped with the crowd, and we can say, a lot of Man United fans do live in London. That is correct. A lot of Man United fans do live in the home counties, but that debate around FA Cup semi-finals being played at Wembley, especially after the last semi-final, the Man City Sheffield United semi-final at Wembley, with the empty seats yesterday. That debate is going to rage. A lot of fans want to see a return to neutral grounds, and I think that is possibly a way to go, but that's an FA decision. But overall, I felt it was a thoroughly entertaining game, a great advert for the game, and very few bookings as well. It wasn't a nasty game by any means. It was spirited. It was played in the right way, and just happened that 2 goalkeepers were on form, and finishing was a bit wayward at times, but I think Manchester United will go into the final against Man City as underdogs. They are still far too inconsistent. Europa League midweek, disastrous. Considering they were leading that tie at one point, to go on and lose that tie against Sevilla in the manner they did was absolutely disastrous. And they bounced back with a win following a defeat, which is how they go this season. Brighton. I think the green shoots are there. I think De Zerbi's the right manager that they for the club, and I think the way they play is Man City-esque in attack and a bit of like Liverpool as well, a mix of the two. It's like a hybrid Man City-Liverpool style attack, which is very, very refreshing. They've got some good interchangeable players. They've got some very good players, like McAllister, for example. Dunk as captain, local lad. He's been with the club 20 years. You don't seem to get that club loyalty anymore. So they've got some good players, and they play in the right way. There we go. Manchester United finally win a shootout after their dreadful running penalty shootouts over the last 4 or 5 years. Absolutely horrendous. And they go on to the final against Man City, which will be the first all-Manchester FA Cup final. We've never had a Manchester City-Manchester United FA Cup final before, so that's a first as well. This semi-final weekend's been a semi-final first. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comments section below, and I'll have some more content for you very, very soon.